Good afternoon and welcome to our updates with the Altrincham Football Club co-chairmen. We've got Bill Waterson and Lawrence Looney with us. My name's Brian Flynn, and we've got a general update for you today. It's quite some time since we did a Zoom update, and we're going to do this general update today with Lawrence and Bill. And then what we're planning to do is to have regular updates around about every couple of weeks with members of the board and also the management team, possibly even one or two players going forward. So this is the sort of start of a new communication process. We did plan a Q&A in the summer, which we weren't able to deliver. So what we'll do is we'll take the relevant questions from that Q&A that are still sort of live and kicking and incorporate those into the first Q&A, which will be in a couple of weeks' time, along with some new questions, which I'm sure we'll have plenty of. So today we're going to cover a lot of ground, but we're going to kick off with the overall status of where we stand. Obviously, things are going very well for Altrincham Football Club on the pitch. So, Bill, if you'd like to sort of kick us off, where do you think we are in terms of our progress made in 2020 and aspirations and ambitions going forward into 2021?
Thanks, Brian. I mean, 2020 was a ridiculously difficult year for the club. Having said that, first of all, we made a profit in the financial year to the end of May in 2020, despite playing behind closed doors for a period of that time and having the season shut down. We got promoted through the playoffs, which has turned out to be a fantastic experience as we've come up into the National League, National Division. And the football we're playing now is just outstanding. There's uncertainty about what's going to happen next. We did get some grant funding in October, November and December from the National League. We're not sure what's going to happen with that going forward, but I'll talk about that shortly. We are strongly in favour of carrying on this season to the end and hoping that we can end the season in the playoffs. I think looking forward, I'll let Lawrence talk about, but we are in a much better position than we could possibly have imagined at this time. And we have the fans to thank for that, with the twice they've dipped into their pockets to get us through rocky periods earlier in last year. But we're well established now for 2021.
When you think about the journey that we've been on, when you link together the FA Cup run in 2019, the run from 18th position in the National League to, I think we were just in a playoff position, I think 5th it was when the pandemic cut in. Then we had the sort of the stop, the hiatus, then the playoffs and the promotion, and then what has been achieved this season. It's quite a story.
Yeah, I mean, I'll pick up on that, Brian. Yeah, it's an amazing story, isn't it? You know, I think I can remember Bill and I talking just before the FA Cup last year, you know, when we felt we really needed a good run in it. One from a football point of view, but also I think from a financial point of view, I think that was extremely important to us. And the FA Cup sort of kick-started what is still going now, the most amazing run I think probably we've had for a number of years. And I don't see that stopping. I mean, we'll go on to talk a bit more around why that's happened. And it's not just by luck, but there's a lot of different parts that we've pulled together to absolutely make sure that Phil has what he needs on the pitch, and we give everything we can to get the best players in. And the board has worked extremely hard, as is the rest of the club. I think when I look back on last year and the run we've had, it's because we're all moving in the same direction, and that includes our fans, who have absolutely been fantastic. We asked them to support us through the fundraising. They came forward, and that gave us a lot of motivation that we had the fans behind us, and they really wanted us to push on. And every single part of the club has just worked so hard, but we've worked together, and I think that's what's brought the success over the last 12, 18 months.
Okay, thanks, Lawrence. Let's look at the board now and stick with you, Lawrence. Since or in the last few months, the board has grown quite significantly, and there's been some real development there.
Yeah, there has been. Bill and I, when we took over, we sat down and we looked at what we needed from a skill set point of view, and also where there's bandwidth, so people can come in and actually do a job on the board. And the other element that we always talk about is the investment side, which clearly helps. But for us, getting the right board was absolutely critical to moving this football club forward. And we mapped out positions we wanted, and then over the last 6 to 9 months, have really been out and spoke to many people who've actually want to come on the board, and lots of investment that that potentially wants to come into the football club. But for us, it was finding the right people that were on the journey with us, that followed in favour of the strategy that we were pushing forward. And I think we've been really successful. And it probably goes back to when Rob came back on board. Rob's absolutely critical on the football side. Then we needed some extra strength in the commercial side, and we brought John in, and John's done a fantastic job. And then we had the opportunity with Cathal, and Cathal brings lots of skills to the board, quite experienced, and that's been fantastic for us. And then obviously, as we announced in the last week, something very different in terms of Chris and Scott coming on from Canada, but they're already making a difference, and from that kind of continually going out and looking for support and investment, that they're very experienced, and that really kind of brings us to quite a complete board. So yeah, lots of change, but we're really moving forward now at pace, and that's because we've got the right people doing the right roles, focused on the right activity.
And Bill, clearly some of the new people on the board, they're not local people, most obviously with Chris and Stuart coming in from Canada, but also Cathal, who lives down in Essex. So it's the profile in terms of the people on the board, and also the geography, is quite different. Yeah,
so we will hopefully be announcing some further board appointments, certainly some further inbound investment in the short term, which is much more local in terms of that. So we're not casting our net far and wide to the exclusion of local investment, not by any means. But the fact of the matter is, what we've created is a proposition that is of great interest to people in the footballing world. We have a vision for this club, particularly focused around getting into the Football League, that is exciting. And people who are interested in football want to come along for the ride. We're taking a different approach to many other clubs who've looked for big money people to come in and run it. What we're building is a board that is strong enough to carry on our shoulders all of the work that we need to do to get into the Football League. And you can see that for the progress that we've made with the board over the last 12 months. And as Lawrence says, Rob coming back, John coming in as, bringing his commercial expertise, Cathal coming in, making significant investment in the club, largest single shareholder now, and now Scott and Chris joining from Vancouver. What we've got there is a team which we're going to add to a little bit that is strong enough to carry us forward. We're going to see some changes to the governance model. A 12-man board, 13-man board needs a different operating model compared to what we've had in the past. And we're changing the structure of the board from being something that was very operational to something that's far more strategic in terms of its thinking. And that's the way that we've got to think. We can't be tied down in operational issues. We've got to be looking at the longer term. We've got to make sure that things are moving in the way that we want, but that strategic intent and all of those activities outside of the day-to-day operations really need the right focus for us to take this club forward.
And of course, as well as having plenty of new blood, we've got some of the previous or the existing board who've been with us now some time, the likes of Neil Faulkner and Derek Wilshaw.
We're going to talk about the great work that Neil's done project managing the Sponsors Lounge a little bit later. But yeah, I think what we've done is we have reinvigorated the board. I mean, the enthusiasm that we get on weekly board calls from Derek, from Mike Adams, as well as from the other board members is great. They can see the progress that we're making, and it's an exciting time for all of us.
Thanks, Bill. So moving on to the situation with the National League, perhaps you can sort of update us as to where we are Obviously, we don't know whether the National League is going to continue at this moment, but we're all hoping that it does, particularly with our current very positive state of health on the pitch. And it's all a bit uncertain at the moment, but I'm sure we're very much in the camp of one of the clubs that wants the season to continue.
So the National League are having a board meeting today. I spoke with our National League board representative, Tim Murphy from Solihull Moors yesterday evening. What they're hoping to do today is to come out with a couple of resolutions, which will be put to the vote. Today is Thursday. A couple of resolutions that will be put to the vote early next week around continuation of the season. They've asked for that to be sort of behind closed doors, and it's very clear that there are some clubs who are doing their positioning in public and to the media. We're not at the moment, but let me make it clear to our fans what our position is. Our position is we want to carry on the season. We want to carry on the season whether or not there's additional grants from the DCMS, the Department of Culture, Media and Sport. We believe that as an elite club, we have a responsibility to keep the National League status as elite. If you think about the fight as a club and as a league that we had to go through in order to get automatic promotion to the Football League, as soon as we suspend the season, I think that puts our elite status in doubt. If it puts our elite status in doubt, the Football League would have a strong argument to say, well, perhaps you're not worthy of 2 promotion places. And if you think that in the first 15 years of the National League, we won the league twice, but were denied promotion to the league because that vehicle didn't exist until 1985, when Scarborough took advantage of it. We would have got to the playoffs, if playoffs had existed then, a further 6 times. So in the first 15 years of the National League, we had effectively 8 opportunities to get into the Football League that were denied to us because those structures did not exist. Now that they exist, and we're in a position to take advantage of them for the first time in 25 years, we absolutely need to ensure that we get that chance if we can play our way into the playoff places.
Lawrence, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, for me, we have been, through the numbers, looked at many different scenarios because, whatever vote gets put to us, the way it's worked so far, we'll have a very short period of time to respond to it. And we need to make sure, that when we make that decision, it's the right decision. And, part of that is the finances side. So we've been spending a lot of time, going through different scenarios. And as we have done with all our decisions, I think we're in a very good position for when that vote comes out. The other bit that, I think is really important for me is that, I've spoken to lots of fans in the last few weeks, putting calls into them. And I also have a nice little group that get together on a Sunday evening. So for some of our fans, this is really something in the current climate that they're looking forward to each week. And therefore, taking away football might be for some fans the only thing they've got to look forward to over the weekend. And we've sort of made a commitment by getting this far, and we want to make sure that we give our fans something to look forward to every weekend. And it's not just our fans. We've got our sponsors who have backed us extremely well in very difficult times. And we want to pay them back. And obviously our season ticket holders and patrons have just been absolutely fantastic. The most season tickets I think we've sold for a number of years, or Bill might tell me, the most we've ever sold. So, fans, sponsors, volunteers made a commitment in us, and we absolutely want to make sure that we can do our best to get football on every weekend or every Tuesday. We all look forward to it. I look forward to it, if I'm honest. Being stuck in the Isle of Man, absolutely love waiting for the stream to come on. So, we want to keep trying to play football and give our fans something to look forward to.
In terms of the playing squad, we've already touched on it a couple of times, but the squad that's been built is doing an outstanding job, and the quality of players that have been acquired since the summer has been absolutely top notch.
It has, and in some ways, I don't know if there's much to say really, because you know, we see it, and we have seen it in a number of games recently, just how good that squad is. And I think, you know, it goes back to, you know, I think partly, you know, bringing Rob back in. You know, Rob is extremely focused in this area. But I think when we lost JJ last year, you know, we really had to look at, you know, how do we go forward? And at the same time, Rob came in and we sort of changed the strategy. And you've probably seen that to look for young players who potentially have come out of the league, who aren't getting the opportunities that maybe they deserve, and bringing them in, making them better players. And clearly then there is a value to that player if we move them on. But, you know, when you look back to, you know, Dan Mooney being probably the first one, you know, he's been absolutely fantastic, made a huge difference in the playoffs. And then we've got Joel, Ryan, Matty, Alistair, and Cisse all coming in, and what a job they've done. I mean, they're absolute pleasure to watch. And, you know, a lot of the credit also goes down to Phil and Neil in terms of the way they've got them playing. But they're absolutely outstanding. And just to see how well they're playing together, you know, the team spirit in obviously that Phil's got in the team is just absolutely amazing, and I absolutely love watching them. I was so excited on Tuesday night to put the stream on, and the pitch wasn't the greatest, but they still played football, and you know, what a result after the weekend as well. So yeah, I don't think we could be in a much stronger position, and probably more than we probably could have dreamed of this time last year. But again, you know, that just hasn't happened by luck. You know, Phil, Neil, Robin have worked extremely hard to get us to that position.
And Bill, you've been an Altrincham fan for a long, long time. I'm guessing that you might not have thought we'd ever be in a position where we are going to Football League clubs and signing their players, because that's very different to the experience that we've had previously.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at the experience of the last 18 months or so, you look at JJ and you look at Jordan Hume, who ended up going to smaller, lesser, lower league clubs than ourselves. You know, these sort of minnows of the game, Chesterfield, those kind of clubs. Whereas James Jones going into the Football League at Barrow is the sort of aspirational thing that we want to have. You look at also the conveyor belt has seen clubs, players like Owen Gale and Josh Lundstrom come through loan spells at Altrincham and establish themselves as Football League players. I'm of the view that we'll have players who we will sell to the Football League, and that, you know, until we're in the Football League, represents a positive step for us. But if you go back to the days of yore, typically we'd be picking up players towards the end of their careers. You know, John Rogers we got 3 or 4 years out of, but he was in his late 20s. You know, Kingy similarly. I think, you know, the Graham Barrow was about it as far as younger players. He was still 23, 24, wasn't he, from the great years. So now that we're getting players like Brian Colclough coming in, Yusuf Cisse coming in, and then the absolute brilliance of signing Alistair Smith from Mansfield Town, that says to me that we are now beginning to attract players who want to come to this club and play football in this way, and that is a huge step forward for them.
And I'm guessing the job isn't finished yet, that we're still looking to strengthen the squad.
Yeah, I think depending on when this goes out, there'll be a potential announcement of an addition to the squad coming this weekend. So yes, we continue to work. We think we've got a pretty damn good squad now, and there's not going to be wholesale additions. I think the only way we'd see any significant additions is if we had an injury spate, which of course we did have earlier in the season. But we're benefiting from players coming back from injury now, and full credit to the Tommy Uda and Ryan for the work that they're doing in getting our players fit and keeping them fit. The fact that we're out running full-time teams, as evidenced by the number of late winners and late goals that we're scoring, is a true credit to the club, the playing side of the club from top to bottom.
Yeah, there's a significant difference, isn't there, between the National League this time round and previous National League campaigns in terms of we've been sort of looking to hang in games, but that's just not been the case this season.
Not at all. I mean, Barnet was a good example for me. Last time we were at the Hive, they basically steamrolled us, and it looked like men against boys. On Saturday, you could almost argue it was men against boys the other way round. We absolutely outplayed them. We played them off the park, and that just shows how much progress we've made.
Certainly some very big boys out there.
Yeah, they do like them large in Barnet, by the look of it.
They do. Okay. Lawrence, have you got anything to add in terms of the playing squad?
No, not really. I mean, the one area that we would have, and Bill's just talked about a signing that we're bringing in the next day, but we have had a number of forwards obviously come in the team that we've had a look at, and that has been an area of focus for Rob, especially really making sure we get the right player in. I think the forward is a little bit harder because we've all seen forwards in training look very good, and when you bring them into the game, there's more pressure, and sometimes they don't match the expectation. So Rob has spent a lot of time with Phil making sure that when we do make the signings, we make the right ones. And we, like we say, we're bringing someone in who we've been watching for a while, and we're delighted to bring him in on board. We did get very close a couple of months ago to bringing in a loan player who we very much felt would have done a fantastic job for us. Probably one of the biggest deals I think, Bill, we probably ever put together to try and bring a forward in, and that's how confident we were in that individual. But unfortunately went to one of our rivals, and I won't go into too much detail, but he's done a fantastic job there and moved them up the league. So we were a little bit disappointed. I think more about maybe location than anything else that we didn't bring that one in, but we're very confident with the signing we've just made. And if the right player comes, and Rob and Phil have got lists of people they constantly are looking at, then we'll bring them in. But like Bill says, what a team we've got, and it's we won't be bringing lots of players because we're very, very happy with the team we've currently now got.
Okay, let's move on to the ground, and we've got a very ambitious 5-year plan, which includes all sorts of plans for the stadium. In fact, the stadium plans are longer than that. It's a 10-year plan. Obviously difficult times with the COVID situation and fans not being allowed in the ground, but can you give us an update as to where we are with the ground improvements?
Sure. So we announced it more or less a year ago, the 10-year plan for the ground. We're 12 months in. We set objectives for year one. We set 2 projects. We set total refurbishment, the sponsors lounge, to make it a more high value location as a greater revenue stream for us. And we talked about building a fan zone at the corner of the Golf Road, the Catats Golf Road end, and the Popular side. Now, both of those projects we picked on because they would generate revenue for the club from our spectators watching games. And of course, we've not had spectators, but we took the decision to continue with that work. The sponsors lounge is more or less finished now. We've just got to fit out the kitchen and bring in the furniture, the tables and chairs. There should be a release going out in the next day or so with some photos of the interior of the new sponsors lounge. One of the things we've created at the far end of it, which is new space in terms of available for sponsors, is an office during the week potentially, but at weekend a sort of private dining room, which offers us a new opportunity for sponsorship during match days. So that's near completion. The quality of it is excellent. It's lovely. One of the jobs we have to do is work out what we're going to put on the walls in terms of photographs that sum up our history. But that's a really enjoyable task that I'm looking forward to. If we then look at the fan zone, planning permission was signed off. Planning permission took a little bit longer than we envisaged because obviously Trafford Borough Council weren't working at full pace because of the COVID situation. So we got planning permission later than we thought we would. Then there was further delay in signing off the construction plan. So the council needed to sign off two things, the planning permission and then the construction plan. That has now been signed off. It was signed off in late November or early December. We were planning then to do the work to clear the programme shop, to flatten the programme shop and to put in place the pods for the fan zone. However, we were unable to do that because of lockdown. Big shout out here to Smart Storage, who've offered us some space to store the programmes that currently sit in a programme shop in their facility whilst we're rebuilding the area. What we have been doing, so the crowdfunding went on and we raised enough money through our fans, brilliant contribution yet again, to start the work. We started building the pods off-site. We've applied, so we have tiles, sponsored tiles. We've got them made and they will be being applied to the pods. As soon as we've cleared the site, we'll then be able to just crane lift the pods into the corner. We'd already built into the design the concept of not being able to drink inside the side of the pitch. So the design includes, because when we did the design, we weren't in the National League yet. Therefore, you could have had alcohol inside the pitch. You can't do that in the National League, but we'd already built that into the design. So that will be built as an area where you're out of sight of the pitch. Once we can clear the programme shop and get ready the site, we will very quickly, 2 weeks or possibly 3 weeks, be able to build the fan zone. So that is the sponsors lounge is green light status. The fan zone is amber going green. As soon as we're allowed back into the ground to do the work to clear the site, we'll be able to do so. And therefore, we've turned our mind to phase two. I'll let Lawrence talk about the details of phase two. We have a weekly call on this, the most recent one being on Monday. But what we've been focusing on is the grant application around phase two and the planning permission. The planning permission for phase two went in yesterday, and we're expecting the public consultation to start on that next week. The grant application will be finally submitted tomorrow, and we expect to hear whether we've got the funds or not at the end of March. Now, funding is the Football Federation puts up 70% of the money, and we put up 30% of the money. We've got our 30% ring-fenced and earmarked from the investment that's been made in shares over the last few months and from contributions that the fans and sponsors have made. So our investment money for phase two is ring-fenced. We're just waiting to hear, once we've submitted the grant funding, waiting to hear on grant funding and on planning permission.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. So yeah, there's two parts of phase two, as Bill has explained, and it'll be much easier. I think we're going to have another call where we can show some photos, and I think it'll bring it to life a little bit more. But part of the phase two is we're looking to put a new building in the way end. The toilets over there, I think, have reached the end of their life. And obviously we put a temporary kiosk in there a couple of seasons ago. So the idea is to put new toilets in for the way end, a new sort of kiosk. And that brings in, good funding. So that's really important to us. And then with that, we're going to put an additional building in there, which is going to be for the academy, in terms of it's going to be called the Academy Suite, hopefully. And that's going to be where we're going to do the education for the academy as we continue to grow it out. I think we're going to talk about the academy shortly, but that's been a huge success, and getting the opportunity to give them a proper suite and link in the toilets and the catering facility makes that kind of quite a neat building over there, and kind of gives us that sort of building out from the corner of the ground as well. So when you see the designs on that, I think you'll agree they're very smart, and that's one part of it. The second part is the pitch, and this one is a little bit more difficult because we've seen that the pitch is not in the greatest condition, and that's not anything down to the grounds team. Neil and all the supporters who get, they're actually doing a fantastic job just to get, any games on. But I think over a number of years, the pitch has had its annual refresh, but like everything, it's sort of getting a little bit old now, I think. And each year we do the work on it, and it doesn't really last as long. With the summer, we weren't able to do any work on it at all, obviously come late out the playoffs, and that's made it even more difficult in terms of the amount of rain we've had to get the pitch to a standard that we need it to. So we are looking at a big investment in the pitch, probably one of the biggest investments I imagine we've ever done on it, but we're just making and taking our time to make sure that we get it right. And the proposal potentially at the moment is to see if there is a bigger refurbishment we can do in the summer. And if we do that, how many years will that give us out of the current pitch? So that's option one. And that still is more expensive than we've probably ever spent on an annual base on the pitch. And if we can't get that right, there's an even bigger option we're looking at, which is basically a brand new pitch. Which would then give us, a really strong pitch for the next 25 years minimum. It would really bring up the standard, and it really get us to a pitch that we want to be available for the style of football that Phil wants to play on it. That option isn't cheap. Just to give you a bit of an idea, you're probably talking to do it properly, 400k plus. But if you take that amount over 25 years, and you take away the lost games that we may have down to weather, the style of football that'll give us more points, there is a strong business case that says that would be, a good investment. And we're really at that decision stage now of looking at the different quotes that have come in and the different advice, just to make sure that we get that absolutely right. The likelihood is if we go with a new pitch, it won't be done this summer because we wouldn't have enough time with the grant application going in, and it will probably be done next year. And therefore we need to do some work on it this season just to make sure it's in a good position for next year. But that's currently where we are. So just to summarise, phase two is got two parts to it. One is a new academy building with toilets and catering facilities, and then the other part of it is bringing the pitch up to the standard we all want it to be.
Just finishing off on the pitch, clearly, it's a problem for us just at the moment. I mean, it was fantastic that Neil Brown and Brian Ford and the ground staff got the pitch playable on Tuesday night for the game against Wealdstone. But these problems are clearly not going to go away. But it's 18 years old, I believe, and you mentioned 25 years there. So this pitch probably, one way or another, is coming to the end of its useful life.
It is, and that's what the experts. We had an expert who is probably one of the best in the country come and see us last week or the week before, and you probably just summarised it, Brian. That's pretty much what they said. You could keep spending money on it, but eventually it's going to be at the end of its life, and you are going to need to put a new pitch in. We then took a very deep breath when he told us how much that would cost. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure we get it right, and it would be great to, in 12, 18 months' time, if we had a pitch equivalent to some of the pitches that we're playing away games on right now. And Phil keeps telling us as well, how his style of football, and he's proven that in the away results, that, we can all see it on a nice flat pitch. The team played fantastic football. Even the other night, I thought they played well on that difficult pitch. So, we know where we want to get to. And it's just making sure that we make the right decision as a board, because clearly there's a big investment in it. But if it's what needs to be done, we'll do it.
You mentioned the away pitches we played on this season, and they have been absolutely incredible. But some of them are in a different league. Boreham Wood, for example, Arsenal used that pitch, and I believe Arsenal paid for the brand new pitch there, and I believe that the investment was over £1 million. And that's quite incredible when you think about it.
It is, but we do have Man United playing on our pitch. I'm not sure how much they'll pay for, but that is important revenue to us on an annual basis. And if we do go looking to put a new pitch in, we'll be absolutely knocking on Man United's door to see if they can, help us in any way, maybe, increasing what they pay us on an annual basis. But yeah, some of these pitches, like you've said, are fantastic. But looking at what we've got, if that 400k plus would give us a very similar service to what we're seeing at some of these other clubs.
One of the most exciting developments in 2020 was the launch of the academy, and the academy played their first game in October, I think it was, and obviously their season has been interrupted quite badly. But plans for the academy and exciting plans for its development continue very with haste.
Yeah, they do. It's we're very excited to get the academy up and running. Like a number of projects that we've continued with COVID. There would have been an easy excuse just to not do some of these things. But myself and some of the other team, we're absolutely adamant that we wanted to push on and get the academy up and running, and it's doing exceptionally well. We've got a really nice squad there, and the plans are to bring the second year in September. In fact, I had a planning call on that this morning. So we'll have the 2 educational years. So we'll go up from sort of 2021 up to 36. And then we'll continue to roll that year in, year out. And we are already starting to see some really good players in that academy. But also we've had a lot of league clubs come and talk to us around players that probably will not make it in their academy next year, but they really feel, coming to Altrincham and our academy would be a really good step for them. And so the quality of players that we bring in is just going to get better. And obviously what we want to get is some of those players out into the first team, and I'm absolutely confident, we will do. So it is very exciting. I think we've done a fantastic job to get it up and running. And if anyone has the time, and when we're back wants to come and see them training some of their games, that'd be absolutely fantastic. I should give just a note, say we have started the trials. We did send out a note recently, so if there's anyone out there who knows any good players who are looking to get into an academy, then come and have a chat to us, because it'd be great to get some local players and push them on and make a difference, and ultimately get them in that first team. I mean, I did talk about this, I think, when I first came in, my passion to make sure we have a pathway all the way from 3-4 year olds right through to the first team. And I think putting the academy with the great junior setup we've got, and obviously the great senior setup we've got, really made that pathway really clear. So yeah, very happy with it. I'm delighted with what we've done so far, and can't wait to see what we can do over the next couple of years.
We've already had some early successes there in terms of, I think there were 4 members of the academy team that played important roles in the very successful FA Youth Cup run, and great job done by Paul Fay, Sam Heathcote and Sarah Newton in terms of the club reached the FA Youth Cup second round and put in a really good performance against Peterborough United. But 4 players from the academy involved in that, and Ryan Ford, I think still only 16, maybe 17 now. He's played for the reserves as well. So we've seen some early successes.
I think so, and I think the when we were looking at whether to move ahead with the academy or not, we deliberately looked away from the is it going to be a cost to the club? Are we going to make a profit on it in year one? Because it's not about it being a money earner for the club. The way that the academy will earn money for the club is players progressing through the academy and into the first team, players progressing through the academy into the first team and then being sold on. You only really need one success in terms of somebody coming from the academy and then being sold to a football league club to pay for the academy over the years of its inception up until that point. And as you say, with players like Ryan Ford, but as you could see, as I think a lot of us got a chance to see with the Youth Cup because of the streaming that went with it, the way that side plays football is not dissimilar to the way that the first team plays football. So Lawrence's strong call for a player pathway is about having consistency between the way that we play all the way through the age groups. And the reserve team is evolving to become a youth and academy team plus, as opposed to a first team minus, as it were. So it will provide that stepping stone between people coming out of the academy and people in the first team. I mean, the challenge is, of course, as we get higher and higher through the pyramid, the gap between the distance between playing academy football and playing football for the first team grows. But that's a nice challenge to have.
So things have been completely different this season in many ways, but the biggest change has been the lack of no fans in the ground. We haven't had any games at the J Davidson Stadium that have been attended by fans, and of course what that's meant is that streaming is the way that fans have been able to access games. Can you give us an update on the streaming story as far as Altrincham Football Club is concerned?
Well, the first thing I have to do, of course, is to commend the quality of the matchday commentary on the streaming, which
of course
has been excellent. I think you and John Edwards, in particular, have been a very good team. I'm lucky enough to sit beneath you because I'm sorting out streaming queries on the pop side underneath the media gantry. And I can hear you guys at work. Streaming's great. It keeps us relevant to our fans. In terms of revenue, it probably raises about 35% of match day admission revenues compared to a normal game. However, it's not just about the revenues. It's about, for example, the record number of season ticket holders that you mentioned earlier. They get the streaming for free. Effectively, they get the streaming as part of their season ticket package. It's a way of keeping them very closely involved with the club. And also, we're seeing a very good take-up from away fans. And actually, you wonder if it's going to be something that changes the way that people watch games. Away fans in particular, you might get a bigger away following watching remotely than making the journey once we come out of lockdown and fans are allowed back in the stadium. But what we've tried to provide with the streaming is a very high quality substitute for the game. And I think, the work that Dan Jones and his team, that Mark Bennett and that the rest of the media team have done has been exceptional to bring this to bear. There's been the odd problem occasionally. I think there are more problems at the user end than there are at the Alti end, but with the exception of the first 10 minutes or so against Stockport, we've had a pretty good record. It'd be nice to get more people watching, and I think we need to think on ways about how we can market it better, because the audience, so for example, the Wheelstone crowd was 466 in the end. I would, and the difference between this and normal attendance numbers, as it were, is we only account season ticket holders who showed up. So I've not added on all of the season ticket holders to get to that number, just those who joined. It'd be good to be consistently over 500, and I would have liked to have seen this growing as we went through the season. I think the fact that we've had our home games have been so spread out has meant that we've not necessarily built that momentum, but I'd like to see us, be consistently at 600 or so as we move through the rest of the season, and then growing potentially even more as we get towards the end of the season.
And in terms of clearly watching your team in the flesh there's nothing that beats that. But there are some positives of streaming in terms of many Altrincham fans, or pretty well all Altrincham fans, will have had the opportunity of watching more games this season because of the access to away games. And also for some people, streaming is a fantastic option because they may not have the opportunity to come to the J Davidson Stadium for lots of reasons. So there are plenty of pluses there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was very slow but basically with streaming, if you're watching from outside the UK, you have to set up the country as being permissible to be viewed. And I was a bit slow in doing that for Tuesday's game. Some might say I forgot, but that would be incorrect. But I knew we had people from at the last minute from Austria, from Canada, obviously, from Australia, from New Zealand, from Germany, from the Netherlands, from Croatia, from Norway contacting me to say, I can't get the stream. From the Republic of Ireland, is there a problem? Yes, there is a problem. I just need to set you up. So those Altrincham fans are getting to see games that they otherwise would not have had a chance to see. Similarly, I know that there are, I know quite a lot of Altrincham fans who have spread out across the country. London Alti as a group, but other people in the East Midlands and further afield, Devon and Cornwall and so on, who are now getting a chance to see the games regularly. And what a set of games they're getting to see. It's fantastic that streaming has offered itself to our fans across the country. Also, I think any fans who are shielding will continue to have access to the streams, I would hope, even when fans are allowed back in the ground. And we don't necessarily expect all of our fans to be racing back to the stadium. I think there will be some nervousness in society about doing that, and streaming offers an alternative for them as well.
And Bill, Lawrence, you've been on. I think you've been on the Isle of Man since March and not been onto the mainland. So clearly, streaming has been a massive benefit to you.
Yeah, it's been a huge benefit. We've been lucky enough not to be under restrictions in the Isle of Man for quite a period up until recently. But not being able to go to games, if I'm honest, I have really missed it. But the streaming has been absolutely fantastic. Right from the playoffs. We had quite a party around here on the final day that went on into the middle of the night. I think we had about 50, 60 people here that day to watching the final. And then obviously we've got our own streaming now, and getting to watch the away games has been absolutely fantastic. And, to Bill's point, what a time, to be able to watch us home and away. I wouldn't have the opportunity without streaming, because, the style of football we're playing is an absolute joy to watch. And the other point I'd make on it is that, from an investment point of view and from a sponsor's point of view, the streaming has done, extremely well. I mean, we're very lucky to have, the Alti TV, which the quality is absolutely outstanding. But in terms of Chris and Scott coming on board from Canada, the streaming was a big advert to getting them involved, watching the games, them sending me messages, so it's a great advert, and it's been a big part, I think, of gaining attention for us, and absolutely with the investment we've got coming in and new sponsors, part of that is absolutely down to the streaming and the great job that Dan and the team and yourself, Brian, and the commentary team have done. It's just been outstanding, and yeah, I'm absolutely delighted. I can watch all games, and I'm going to miss that when we go back to normal, but clearly then I'll get the opportunity to come and watch it live, which will be absolutely fantastic.
Fantastic. And BT Sport, which is obviously the licensed cover of the National League, they're a great asset to the league and to Altrincham Football Club. It's great to be in a league that's getting live matches covered on TV. I think a number of Altrincham fans are disappointed we've only had one game so far, but I'm sure that will change going forward.
Well, you'd expect so, wouldn't you? The entertaining football that we're playing, you'd think there'd be some level of attraction and interest around that would put us more in the spotlight. There were, I think, plans to show an additional game, which was somewhat scuppered by fixture alterations, but I'm sure we're in there crosshairs for a televised game, home or away, at some point in March and April.
Okay, well, I think we've covered a lot of ground there. Thanks very much for giving us an update, both Lawrence and Bill, on what's happening at Altrincham Football Club off the pitch. It's very, very exciting times for the fans, the players, the management, and everybody involved at the football club. Any final messages as we sort of go into what is our next game against Torquay United?
Well, I said about a year ago that I felt that our best days as a club were still ahead of us. And I think what has happened in the last 12 months has proven that may well be true. I think we can envisage a pathway to the Football League somewhere where we've never been before, in a way that talking about it a year ago could just have been a little bit of bravado. But there is a concrete path. There's a concrete path that will need investment and hard work for sure to get us Football League ready. But I believe it's absolutely possible now.
Yeah, and I think for me, Brian, if I go back, I think I've been a board member for just over 3 years. So, and I've had a fantastic 3 years at the club, and I was lucky enough just prior to that to get an unexpected promotion when I was chief exec at Lancaster. And I still think back to, what really brought me to the club, which was, I spent spent quite a bit of time with the board, but I also spent, quite a few matches in different parts of the ground with the fans. And it was the fans really that made up my mind, to come to the football club. And, they've been absolutely fantastic through the 3 years I've been here. And I still remember some conversations, I think the first year when we had fans over in the Isle of Man, and, I was trying to convince them that, we could quickly get back into the National League, and one day we could dream about getting into the Football League. And I'm not saying they were all in agreement with me at that time, although I think we'd had a drink or two. But I was absolutely determined, with the right focus, bringing in the right board, focusing on the right activities, that with the fans behind this football club and the history it's got, there is no reason why we shouldn't get into that Football League. And I'm never more confident in that statement 3 years on than I am right now. But we're not there yet. We've got a lot of work to do, but we've got clear plans to get there. And you've just said it, we've got a very strong board. We've got a great group of, great management team, great group of players, fantastic volunteers, and some amazing fans. And if we can just all keep pulling together, I'm confident that we'll all meet that dream of being in Football League, hopefully in a few years' time.
Well, thanks very much. And on behalf of the fans, let me just say a big thank you for providing this update, sir. I'm sure that the supporters and everybody who's interested in Altrincham Football Club will really appreciate it.